There is a big new study out on Alzheimer's and its effects on the care system here in California. Joining us now to talk about it is the Chief Program Officer of the Alzheimer's Association, Claire Day. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Talk about the prevalence of Alzheimer's and the increase in cases that we're seeing based on your new data.
Yeah, so Alzheimer's disease affects about 6 million people nationwide. I think the biggest risk factor for Alzheimer's, of course, is age, 1 in 9 over the age of 65. So with our growing 65 plus population, it's estimated that there are about 58 million people in 2021 who are 65 and above. That number is expected to jump to 88 million by 2050. We've got the baby boomers who are aging. We're an aging nation. And so with age being the largest risk factor, of course, that's going to have an impact on the prevalence of Alzheimer's disease, which by 2050 could double.
And what about the number of deaths then being attributed to Alzheimer's? I'm sure that is going up as these numbers you're talking about are going up.
Certainly. And today we know that 1 in 3 seniors die with Alzheimer's disease or a related disorder. And of course, we've seen, unfortunately, deaths rise over the last, certainly last year, related to COVID. Of course, they've gone up by about 17% nationwide, about 18% here in California, because of the impact of COVID. And we know that deaths from other diseases are either plateauing or decreasing, where deaths from Alzheimer's over a 20-year span have gone up by about 145%. And again, it's a lot of this is in relationship to the fact that we are an aging nation.
What about the costs of care right now and the availability of people who can provide that care here in California?
The cost of care for Alzheimer's disease through both Medicare, Medi-Cal, out-of-pocket expenses nationwide, it's about $321 billion. And that cost of care is really, it's astronomical when you think of that number. I think the bigger impact is the unpaid caregivers, right? Those caregivers that are providing that care that's not being covered by another entity. That costs the country about $18.94 billion. And it equates to about 881 million hours of care that just couldn't be provided by professional caregivers, right? And we are seeing that there's a dip in professionals availability, and we really have to think about how we can strengthen the workforce to be there to provide the care for people living with dementia.
Yeah, because it seems like at a certain point, my family's gone through this. Almost everybody I know has known somebody who's had the disease, where you can only care for somebody up to a certain point in your own home with your own family, and then you're going to need that professional care.
It's such a 24-hour job, right? And this is not a one-person disease. There's a lot of symptoms that can provide real caregiving burden and challenges. And we find that caregivers for people living with dementia feel a great sense of obligation to provide that care. But we also have to make sure that supplemental care is available and trained and ready when people do need it. Because when they do make that call, it's oftentimes because they really are at the end of their rope and really needing that support.
Absolutely. It's such an emotional decision to make for everybody involved. We know. What about awareness of Alzheimer's? Like I mentioned, most everybody knows somebody who's been afflicted with it. What kind of light did the study shed on that?
There was a great special report that really talked a lot about mild cognitive impairment and really focused on that. And mild cognitive impairment is where you see some cognitive changes, and you would notice those cognitive changes in yourself, but they're not really having a direct impact on your activities of daily living. And what we found was that there was really this need from both the general population and from primary care physicians for more awareness around understanding what mild cognitive impairment is, understanding how it provides a potential risk for developing Alzheimer's and dementia. About 10 to 15% of people go on to develop dementia each year who have mild cognitive impairment. It's a risk factor. It's not inevitable that if you have mild cognitive impairment, you will have Alzheimer's or dementia, but it's certainly increasing your risk. And so I think it just brought great awareness to understand how we need to do a better job of preparing physicians to understand what that is, to how to diagnose, how to talk to families and to people living with symptoms about that cognitive loss. And it was really interesting because the awareness of mild cognitive impairment was found to be low, but a lot of people confused mild cognitive impairment with normal aging, which it's not, right? There is a difference. And even though there was low awareness, once people understood what it was, their desire to want to know if they had it really increased. And so making people aware of understanding what it is led to people wanting to say, you know what, if this was me, I'd want to know about these cognitive changes, and I'd want to know what I need to do differently to, to take care of myself.
And potentially slowing progression before we get to a full-blown Alzheimer's situation. There is a drug out there that is designed to slow progression. What do you know about that?
Yeah, it's well, I think what we know about it is exactly that. It's not a cure. It's not going to cure the disease, but it is targeting one of the primary hallmarks of Alzheimer's disease, which is the amyloid plaque. And so it's the first time we've had a drug and a class of drugs that would do that. So certainly encouraging from a scientific perspective to see that we're making these types of advances in research.
Okay, and the Medicare and Medicaid centers are making a big decision on this drug, from what I understand, within the next month or so, as far as how much they're going to be willing to pay for it, and if it would maybe be isolated to people who were in clinical trials. The thought pattern is that there's not been enough study done on this drug, so that it should be that way. What is your take on that?
Well, I think the bigger take that I have certainly is that this decision would impact the entire class of medications. And we always know that the first one out of the gate is probably never going to be the best one, right? And so, but it's a starting point. And so I think what's important to understand is this decision impacts the entire class of medications. And so that's something that shouldn't be made, right? We shouldn't be making a decision based on one medication that would impact future classes. So I think that while we need to make sure that everybody has access to receiving these medications, and limiting it to clinical trials means that you have to be in that clinical trial to get the drug, and that really doesn't provide equity to everybody who would be eligible for the drug.
Right. Do you see other drugs coming behind this? So, I mean, you're saying that, and so this decision would affect all of them. That's a big deal.
Yeah, there's already a couple that are in the pipeline, and so it would have impact on future research, which we really don't want to see.
Okay. Any other big takeaways? Any other thoughts on the entirety of this study that the Alzheimer's Association just completed?
I think just to bring awareness to the fact that this is, we are here for families. This is an everyday occurrence for people that are living with dementia to have the need to talk to someone, whether it's through our website or through our helpline, to know that we're there to provide care and support to all affected, and just to help people who don't understand about Alzheimer's disease realize the impact that it's having on our nation.
And how can people contact you if they want to do so?
Best way would be through alz.org, our 24-hour helpline, 800-272-3900.
Okay. Thanks for being there for everybody. We appreciate it. Claire Day. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Great.
Really appreciate it. You did a great job.
Thank you.
Keep at it. Yeah, keep at it. I know that's something that so many of us are going to continue to deal with in our lives with our families. So
we very much, of course, appreciate the fact that you're willing to put this on as well. The more we can raise awareness, the more people will get help. Bottom line.
Yep. We're with you. We're with you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Have a great
care.
Bye-bye.
You too.